For over 24 years, Cassandra poured her heart into her job, only to be tossed aside like she was nothing, replaced by someone cheaper. Just when she thought her world had crumbled, fate had other plans. One ordinary afternoon, the roar of a helicopter shattered the silence outside her home. A mysterious visitor had arrived, one who would turn her life upside down in ways she never saw coming. Here's how it all unfolded. For 24 years, Cassandra had poured her heart into a small-town pastry shop tucked between the antique store and the cozy bookstore on Willow Street. At 60, she was more than just an employee. She was the soul of the place. Her morning started before dawn, the air still cool and crisp as she unlocked the doors and fired up the ovens. Baking wasn't just a job, it was her passion, a devotion that ran deep through her veins. She treated the shop as if it were her own, even though her name wasn't on the sign outside. Customers adored her, both old and new, because they knew she never cut corners. Every pie, tart, and pastry was made with meticulous care, her hands working with the confidence of someone who had spent a lifetime perfecting her craft. She refused to use anything canned or artificial, opting instead for fresh, organic produce she personally handpicked from local farms. If someone wasn't satisfied with her order, Cassandra would fix it immediately, sometimes even replacing it free of charge, just to make sure everyone left happy. It wasn't about money. It was about pride and joy. Seeing someone's eyes light up at the first bite of her pastries was her greatest reward, and she'd do whatever it took to make that moment happen. Her dedication was unwavering, anchored by a routine as dependable as the sunrise. Each morning, she'd wake at 6 a.m., take care of her home and her cat, then head out by 7 a.m. The shop was far from her house, but she made sure to leave early enough to beat the morning rush. She had to. Her customers depended on her fresh-baked cookies and cupcakes. She refused to let them down. That morning, just as she flipped the sign to open, the door swung wide. "Can I get 2 slices of brownies?" a familiar voice asked. Cassandra looked up, surprised. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Connor. They won't be ready for another 15 minutes. "I guess I got here too early," he chuckled. "Nonsense. You're right on time," Cassandra said with a smile. Connor, a man in his late 60s, was one of her most loyal customers and a friend. He stopped by every morning without fail. "All right then, can I have some donuts while I wait?" he asked. Cassandra shook her head playfully. "You know I won't sell you the ones with sugar. Remember last time?" Connor groaned. "Why do you always remind me? First my mother warned me about sugar as a kid, now you won't let me forget it either." "It's for your own good," Cassandra teased. "But I can still get you your usual coffee instead." "Fine, coffee it is," Connor agreed. As he waited for his brownies, Connor chatted about his cat, a favorite topic of his. Cassandra realized that despite their daily talks, she knew very little about his life. He always arrived in a sharp suit, but when she once asked what he did for a living, he brushed it off. She never asked again. Connor was always the first to arrive and often the last to leave. He had a special fondness for her brownies, but he also loved her sugar-free cookies and cupcakes. He never missed a morning. While Cassandra was busy with customers, carefully boxing up a dozen cinnamon rolls for Mrs. Henderson and offering a sample of her new lemon raspberry cookies to the kids peeking over the counter, the shop owner appeared without warning. "I've been getting complaints about you," he said, his tone flat and businesslike. Lex Connors had always been a man of few words, but today his voice carried a weight that made Cassandra's stomach twist. Cassandra frowned, her hand stilling over a tray of fresh pastries. "That's strange. No one's mentioned anything to me." The owner sighed, his shoulders sagging as if the conversation itself was an unwelcome burden. "Look, Cassandra, I know you love this place, but you're getting too old for this job." Her heart sank, the words feeling like a physical blow. She tried to force a smile, but her lips trembled. "Come on, Lex. I may be older, but I'm still as capable as ever. I've been running this shop practically on my own for years, you know that. And you've done a good job," Lex admitted, his voice softening slightly, but his eyes still avoided hers. "But things are changing. Customers are complaining about wait times, about orders not being ready on time. You're here before dawn and you stay until after closing most days. It's not healthy, and frankly, it's not sustainable." Cassandra swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. "I'm here because I love this place, Lex. I've poured my heart into this shop since the day I started. It's not just a job to me, it's my life." "I know," he replied, a hint of guilt flickering in his gaze. "But we need to think about the future. This bakery has to stay competitive. Customers expect faster service, new recipes, fancier decor. The world's moving on, Cassandra, and it's time for you to move on too." She felt her hands begin to tremble and clasped them tightly in front of her, trying to keep her voice steady. "And what am I supposed to do? Just walk away? I've worked here longer than anyone. I built this place up from nothing when your father was still in charge. I've trained every single person who's ever worked behind that counter, Lex. You can't just push me out like this." "It's not about pushing you out," Lex said, his voice firm but laced with discomfort. "It's about letting you enjoy life. You've given so much of yourself to this bakery, Cassandra. You deserve to rest, to do whatever you want." "What if this is what I want?" Her voice cracked and she cursed herself for letting the emotion show. "What if the only thing I want is to keep doing what I love? If you take this away from me, you take away my purpose. You take away everything I've spent my life building. Baking is my life," Cassandra pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of her desperation. But his decision was final. Lex had made up his mind, and nothing she could say would change that. What she didn't know was that it wasn't about her age, it was about money. The bakery's profits had been dwindling for months. Rising supply costs, fierce competition from chain stores, and the lure of online pastry deliveries had left Lex scrambling to cut expenses, and the easiest way to do that was to replace her with someone younger, cheaper, and willing to work for a fraction of what Cassandra earned. The next few days were unbearable for Cassandra. Every morning she woke up at 6 a.m. as usual, her body so accustomed to the routine that she couldn't break it even when there was nowhere to go. She'd find herself standing in her tiny kitchen, her hands moving on their own to prepare coffee, her eyes drifting toward the window where the early morning sun crept through the curtains. But after that, there was only silence. The familiar rhythm of her day was gone, leaving behind an aching emptiness that clawed at her insides. Instead of rolling dough and decorating cupcakes, she sat by the window staring at the street, imagining her customers stopping by the shop. Only she wasn't there to greet them. The laughter and chatter of customers, the smell of vanilla and fresh bread wafting through the air, she could almost feel it, her fingers itching to knead dough or pipe frosting with the precision she had perfected over decades. She called Lex twice, her voice shaky and thin, asking if she could at least help train the new hire, but his answers were short and firm. "She's doing fine, Cassandra. We're all set. Take care of yourself." Take care of yourself. The word stung like an insult, as if he was doing her a favor by stripping away the only thing that gave her life meaning. Then, 2 days later, the sound of a helicopter shattered the silence. Confused, Cassandra stepped outside, shielding her eyes from the wind kicked up by the blades. And there, stepping out of the chopper, was Connor. "Connor, what are you doing here?" she called, still in shock. He smiled as he walked toward her. "Sorry for the dramatic entrance. Traffic was a nightmare, so I figured this was faster." Cassandra was still confused. "But why are you here?" "I stopped by the shop this morning and found out you weren't there. What happened?" he asked, concerned in his voice. She sighed. "I got fired. So now I'm just trying to figure out what to do next." Connor's expression softened. "Cassandra, you've always talked about opening your own pastry shop. Why not do it now?" She shook her head. "I can't afford that, Connor. It's too expensive." Without another word, Connor gestured for one of the men with him to bring a briefcase. He popped it open, pulled out 3 stacks of cash, and placed them in Cassandra's hands. "This should be enough. If you need more, just let me know." Cassandra's eyes widened. "Connor, where did you get all this money?" He chuckled. "From my business. I want you to have it." Before she could even process what was happening, Connor was already heading back toward the helicopter. "I have to go now, Cassandra, but when we meet again, I hope it's in your very own bakery." That entire day, Cassandra couldn't stop staring at the money, wondering if it was all just a dream. What she didn't know was that Connor was a multimillionaire. He had never told her because to him, she wasn't just another business transaction. She was someone who had treated him with kindness, never knowing who he really was, and more than that, her baking reminded him of his late mother's pastries. 2 months later, Cassandra's dream became reality. She found the perfect space and opened her very own bakery. Cassandra's new bakery was everything she had ever dreamed of, and more. The moment customers stepped inside, they were greeted by the warm, comforting scent of fresh-baked bread, cinnamon rolls, and Cassandra's famous brownies. The space was cozy yet elegant, with rustic wooden tables that Cassandra had carefully sanded and polished herself, giving them a warm, inviting glow. Soft amber lighting bathed the room, creating a serene atmosphere that made even the most hurried customers slow down and relax. The air was rich with the scent of freshly baked bread, buttery croissants, and cinnamon rolls that oozed with sticky, sugary goodness. The display case was the crown jewel of her bakery, a gleaming glass showcase filled with an array of colorful pastries, cakes, cookies, and pies that seemed almost too beautiful to eat. Unlike the shop where she had worked for years, this place reflected her personality and passion. She didn't have to conform to someone else's menu or follow rigid rules. Every pastry was crafted with the love and creativity she had been forced to hold back for so long. The walls were adorned with framed photographs of classic family recipes passed down from her grandmother's handwritten cookbook. Next to each photo was a short story about the recipe's origin, penned in Cassandra's neat, familiar handwriting. Customers would often wander from one frame to another, reading about her childhood memories of making lemon bars with her mother, or the first time she had successfully baked her own bread at age 12. A large chalkboard menu hung above the counter, written with her signature meticulous script. Every morning she updated it with the day's specials like blueberry scones with lavender glaze or maple pecan sticky buns. The menu also featured a Connor's Corner section with sugar-free options, a playful nod to her most loyal customer. Families came in for weekend breakfasts, their laughter filling the cozy space as parents sipped coffee and kids eagerly devoured stacks of fluffy pancakes and warm cinnamon rolls. Workers stopped by for midday pick-me-ups, their tired eyes lighting up at the sight of her freshly brewed coffee and perfectly baked scones. Cassandra knew many of them by name, greeting them each morning with a smile that seemed to make their long days just a little bit easier. Children pressed their noses against the glass case, marveling at the colorful cupcakes and cookies decorated like playful animals or twinkling stars. Their delighted squeals whenever Cassandra handed them a free cookie or slipped a little extra frosting on their cupcakes made her smile wider than ever. The bakery had become a sanctuary not just for her, but for everyone who walked through its doors. Looking back, Cassandra realized that losing her job had felt like the end of the road. She had been shattered, left with nothing but her memories and the aching emptiness of all those mornings without purpose. But in reality, it was the start of something greater. Her struggle and pain had carved out space for something far more meaningful. It was no longer about working for someone else's dream, it was about building something of her own, rooted in love, passion, and unwavering kindness. Connor's encouragement, the smiles of her customers, the warmth of the bakery, these were the real rewards. Every satisfied face, every heartfelt thank you, every moment of connection became proof that her life's work truly mattered. And in her little corner of the world, she had found fulfillment beyond any paycheck or title. If this story touched you, let us know by tapping that like button and subscribing for more. Share one word in the comments that captures how this story made you feel. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and never stop believing in the power of goodness.